What is core clearing breathwork? Well, it's summed up in 3 words: thinking, feeling, and then loving. Thinking, feeling, and loving. They're like 3 layers that we guide people through. And I'm going to guide you through these 3 layers. So I'm kind of unpacking this for you so you have a little sense when I'm guiding you through the core clearing, what we're working with here and how we're going about it. So let's have a look at thinking. So we say thoughts are abstractions from experience. Now, what that means is that experience comes first, and then we analyze it, we compare it, we judge it, we make up stories about it. This is a good day, this is a bad day, that's a good person, bad person, so on and so on. And all those stories are mostly where we live, because we live in a cognitively based Western society that worships thinking. And, you know, Descartes said, I think, therefore I am, right? So we say, I think, therefore I'm confused. And what we find is that trying to argue with kind of negative thoughts just gets us in an argument. And so when we do core clearing, we don't argue with the thoughts, and we don't try and change the thoughts even. We're actually going deeper than the thoughts, because the truth is that nothing has any meaning except for the meaning that we give it. So if you saw The Gods Must Be Crazy, the Coke bottle falls out of the plane in the Kalahari Desert, and the local people, the natives, they don't have any reference for a Coke bottle. So it's got no meaning. They can't integrate it in any way. And so what we're doing all the time in our life is we're having experiences and then we're giving meaning to them, but that's not innate to the experience. It's something that we're projecting onto it mostly from our past experiences and our conditionings. And the really big turnaround in our heart center work is the principle that thoughts arise secondary to feelings. And so most psychology is based on trying to change the thoughts to change the feelings. But what we find with the core clearing breath work is if we can help people to shift what we might call negative or difficult feelings into what we might call positive ones, then actually the thinking changes by itself. We don't have to force ourselves to try to be positive. So how we do that, how we disarm thinking and stories, is we witness them. So we practice being the observer of the thoughts and the stories. Takes a bit of practice, but it's actually an easy way out, much easier than arguing positive, negative kind of way of doing it. So at the thinking level, which is where we normally start when we have an issue, we're full on into all the stories. What we're doing is we witness the stories without any judgment about them. They're just stories. And then we want to drop deeper under the stories to what we're actually feeling. And then we're going to journey into our hearts after that. So let me talk briefly about the feeling level, which is where it all happens. So repressed emotions drive us, right? So the saying we have is what you don't feel runs you. So repressed emotions give rise to restlessness, anxiety, stress, reactivity, excessive doing, and excessive thinking. Right? So when I give presentations, often this is the slide everybody wants to write down, because we all connect to this. We understand that our emotions are energy and they're moving all the time. And if we're not mastering them, then they are driving us. So let me unpack emotions just a little bit more for you. Sorry about the out of order. Emotions are real, right? And you've grown up being taught that emotions are fantasy. So when you're feeling sad, people tell you to cheer up. When you're feeling angry, people will tell you to calm down, and so on. So I grew up with the idea that emotions are a byproduct of what I'm thinking about. But actually, when I started doing breath work, I realized emotions have their own reality in my body. And emotions are actually energy. They have a good purpose, and their purpose is to move us in our life, to give us energy in different situations. That makes them important, because most studies show that we make decisions based on what we're feeling, not what we're thinking, that we rationalize with thoughts, but we make decisions on our feelings. And even more than that, our emotions actually change how our brain functions, and how you're feeling conditions how you see the world. Now, strange thing is, we all know this, but it's just not the culture that we live in. So when you're happy, guess how the world looks, right? It looks rosy, doesn't it? And when you're unhappy, the world looks bleak, right? So what that means is the emotion that you're feeling has changed your perception, right? And so what that means is the feelings come first, and what you're feeling changes how your brain functions, right? So the second part of working with feelings is working with sensations. And with the core clearing breath work, what I'm going to do is I'm going to guide you into your body and help you to connect to what's really going on whatever area or issue you're working on. Now, sensations have two aspects. They have a location, so they're always somewhere in your body, and they have qualities like warm, cool, heavy, light, tight, loose, steady, pulsing, so on. So what we're doing is we're actually going to focus on an issue, tune into the body, what's getting activated in my body when I do the heart breathing. So the sensations link to the emotions, because all emotions are expressed in the body as physical sensations. So you can help to identify the emotion that's really happening for you, not the one in your head, but actually in your body, by tuning into the physical sensations. We use an emotional literacy model that I've developed of 6 primary emotions, and it's joy and sadness in the chest. So when you're feeling tight in the chest, heavy in the chest, it's often about grief. Excitement and fear in the solar plexus. So if you're feeling anxious, you probably have had that kind of, like, sometimes people call it a steel ball in the stomach. And passion and enthusiasm, or anger, sorry, in the guts. So we say, I've had a gutful of this. So we're keying in and starting to recognize the emotions that link to the physical sensations, because the old saying is the body never lies. And so rather than trying to figure out in our head what we're feeling, what we do is we go by Braille, we go by feel. We tune into the body and we start to feel what's actually going on in here. So you might be, say, thinking that you're feeling kind of glum, but when you tune into your body, you might find you're actually kind of numb. There's actually not much happening there at all. Or you might be feeling kind of nervous or anxious. And when you tune into your body, strangely enough, I've seen lots of people actually feeling quite calm, quite peaceful. So the body is the master, the key for helping us to connect with what's true. The emotional layer is where everyone gets stuck, because we live in a culture that teaches us that to be strong, you have to repress your emotions. And that is actually a sickness and causes massive amounts of suffering. And so most people don't have very many skills to process their emotions. And what we teach in the core clearing breathwork training is how to work with the sensations and the emotions, and with this heart attitude of gentleness and surrender and allowing and presence, to dissolve the feelings and complete the emotions from the past that are actually subconsciously holding us back. And what happens is when you feel the emotion, you actually will drop through into what we call a heart space, into loving. So the heart space, or the heart qualities, are kind of known as presence with a capital P. And they're often characterized by feeling calm, quiet, spacious, peaceful, loving, happy, something like that in a core clearing session. So when I'm guiding you through this, I want you to be paying attention. You'll hopefully you'll find some resistance, find some pain in your body, something blocked. You breathe in there, you open up to it, you welcome it in, and then there'll come a point when it feels like, it just released or it's shifted. And you might not notice that shift, but when you go to tune in again, you might find, I just feel calm, feel peaceful. And often people think at that point, oh, I must have lost it. I must have lost it. I've got to go back and find it again. But in fact, usually what's happened is it's shifted and people have dropped into a layer deeper than emotion, which we call the heart qualities. Now, at that point, we're connected in our heart. We have access to heart intelligence. And that's a place where you get insight, inspiration, and intuitive guidance. And so often when we have an issue, we're trying to think our way through it and we overthink it. And that just takes us further away than what the real intuitive heart-centered guidance really the highest response to the situation would be. And so what we do in the core clearing is once people get to that heart space, then we have a certain what do we say, strategy or formula or something to help people to connect to their heart intelligence for guidance in there. And I'll share with you how we put that together. So basically in your heart, there is a lot of different heart qualities that are deeper than emotions. Ease is one of those. And the practice that activates ease is effortless flow. And the dancer is what I love to model that. Happiness is a heart quality, and savoring the moment is a practice that we use to cultivate happiness. Peace is a heart quality, and the practice of acceptance builds peace. Love is a heart quality, and the practice of compassion builds love. Connection is a heart quality, and the practice of presence or openness builds connection. Gentleness is a heart quality, and the practice of mercy or forgiveness is the one that cultivates gentleness. Spaciousness, that sense of like awe or wonder when you look up at the stars at nighttime, is a heart quality. And the practice that we use for that is mystery or letting go of the need to understand. Wealth, abundance is a heart quality. And the practice that breeds that is actually generosity. Strength and courage, I mentioned before, the practice of welcoming in, or the Buddhists call it Tonglen. So opening up to discomfort instead of closing down on it is the way to become incredibly powerful. Gratitude is another really powerful heart quality. And the practices we use to cultivate gratitude are praise and appreciation. And enthusiasm is a heart quality that arises when we follow our heart. Now, what we do in the core clearing, and I'll guide you in this, is when we go through to the heart state, I'm going to ask you which of these heart qualities you're being called to develop in this situation, whatever the challenge is for you, whether it's a relationship or work issue or a health issue or a lifestyle issue, whatever the issue is, you can bet that you're actually being called to develop one of these heart qualities, or another one that's not on the list, because there's more than I've listed here, but these are the main ones. And so what you're going to do is you're going to identify from your heart, ask your heart for guidance on this, which heart quality I'm being called to develop here. And then I'm going to suggest a heart practice that goes with it, and you're going to put those two together. So if we summarize all of this, then you're going to start off by identifying an issue. It could be anything, and it's best if it's an actual thing, not something that could happen in the future. So see if you can find, say, for instance, I'm worried that if I get into a relationship, it's not going to last. Well, that's in the future, right? So guess where that's coming from? It's probably coming from a past relationship that didn't last. And what's actually happening in the present is I'm feeling nervous about going out and meeting people. So see if you can find what's actually happening in the present, because it'll give you more leverage to actually connect to what's going on. And then it's likely that if you connect to what's really going on in the now, it does take you back to a previous time, because most of our emotions link by feeling, right? So previous feelings that we've had at similar situations get linked together subconsciously. And so whatever feeling comes up when you focus on an issue is probably linked to a past time when you've experienced a similar situation and similar emotions. And so you can use it as like, you can use your emotions as like a bridge or a link to track back to the incomplete past experience that's actually subconsciously holding you back from moving forward now. I hope that all makes sense. So what we're doing, first thing is we describe the issue, and then we just witness the thoughts and the stories that we have around it. And then we start to breathe into the body and connect to the sensations and the emotion. And we cycle down through each emotion, because there can be layers of emotion, until you get to presence, until you feel stillness or calmness or emptiness. And at that point, I'm going to suggest to you those 12 heart qualities and practices, and you're going to listen to your heart in this area with this issue, which one you're being called to develop here. And then we're going to put that together in a little intention. I consent to living in the presence of the heart qualities, say peace, and practicing heart practice, which would be acceptance. And so you can go away from this session with a little intention that really can embody you being in a good place to move forward with the issue that you're working with here. Does that all make sense so far? How are we tracking? Give me a thumbs up. Yep, I'm with it. Oh, not sure. Don't worry if it's not totally clear. Awesome. Thanks, Kate. Beautiful. Great. Nice refresher for those that have done the training before, just to brush up on the essence, the basic principles here. Great. So how this all hangs together, thanks, Stella. two people have got it. I hope everyone is still awake and present here. So here's an example of how this works. So I was coaching a business coach, and this woman was stuck in her business. And the story, one of the stories she had was, thanks, Mary, I'm a bad mum. So the story was, I'm a bad mum for not being present with my kids because I'm off at work doing coaching. And when she breathed into her body, it wasn't far down that she felt this shame, that she was like bad. And when she breathed into that, strangely enough, there was a fear of losing loved ones, right? So the fear of the loss of her kids. And when she breathed into that, there was some grief. And it was the grief of the loss of her grandmother, who had passed away the year before, was sitting there just under the surface. And she had a bit of a cry. She released some of the grief and opened up her heart. And before you knew it, she was feeling the love that she had for her grandmother. Even though her grandmother had passed away, she still had the love for her grandmother. So what we know is, in the head, we're separate, but in the heart, we're all connected. And she really got it. And beautiful poetry in this, she realized that when she's at work, she's still connected in her heart to her kids, even though they might be at school or kinder or wherever, in creche or whatever. So there was a beautiful kind of poetry in how that all unraveled. And that's the kind of layers that we go through. And that's why I call this the tiramisu model, because the best part's at the bottom. So now you know my weakness, my kryptonite.